Hello and welcome back to Deep Sleep Creep's YouTube channel. Today we're going to be listening to 3 more horror stories. If you enjoyed listening to it, please consider commenting and subscribing. So get comfortable and let's begin. Many years ago in the early 2000s, my family and I went on our annual Labor Day weekend camping trip. It had been a tradition for as long as I could remember. Every year we'd head to the same spot in the woods. But that year, my dad wanted something different. He'd heard about a more remote campsite, deeper in the wilderness, promising seclusion and tranquility. We packed up our typical camping stuff, but this year we packed up our swimsuits too, because Dad said there might be a waterfall with a small pond area we can swim in. We drove through unfamiliar roads, but were excited about the trip. My younger sister Emily and I talked about the trip. We also talked to our parents on what we are going to do with our 3-day weekend and what we are going to eat. Being 10 and 8 years old, respectively, our imaginations ran wild with tales of the hidden waterfalls and undiscovered treasures. We finally got to the woods where our campsite will be for the next couple of days. Then we grabbed our hiking gear and began our walk into the dense woods. The trail was beautiful, going through towering trees and thick underbrush, the sunlight filtering through the leaves overhead. The path was rugged, and the sounds of nature was calming, a chorus of chirping birds, rustling leaves, and distant trickling water. We hiked for hours, our feet hurting more as we made it deeper into the woods. We stopped a couple of times when we saw a beautiful scene that Emily and I had to take pictures of with our new Polaroid cameras we got for Christmas that year. As we continued our hike, we could hear the faint sound of rushing water growing louder and louder with each step. We were so excited. We imagined a hidden waterfall that very few get to see that was waiting for us at the end of our journey. Finally, the trail opened up to a clearing, and there it was. The waterfall we have been anxiously waiting to see. The water was so crystal clear as it cascaded over the rocky cliff, which was mesmerizing to see. We stood in awe, taking in the sight and sound of the waterfall. But as we took in the breathtaking scene, something sinister disrupted our peace. Emily and I exchanged puzzled glances as a disheveled figure emerged from behind the trees, just a short distance from the waterfall. The man's clothes were ragged, dirty white, and his eyes had a wild, unsettling look. He moved with a strange, jerky gait that sent chills down our spines. We watched in silence as he approached the waterfall, muttering incomprehensible words to himself. His presence felt entirely out of place in this serene setting. Our parents, caught up in the beauty of the waterfall, hadn't noticed the intruder. As the man reached the edge of the pool beneath the waterfall, he let out a guttural, inhuman scream that echoed through the clearing. Emily and I gasped, our hearts racing. The man's eerie behavior and blood-curdling scream filled us with dread. We desperately tugged at our parents' sleeves, trying to direct their attention to the bizarre scene unfolding before us. But they remained oblivious, mesmerized by the waterfall's beauty. The man continued his unsettling ritual, his eyes fixed on the cascading water, seemingly lost in his own world. We were paralyzed with fear, torn between staying hidden and calling out to our parents. Finally, the man abruptly turned and disappeared back into the woods, leaving us trembling with confusion. We knew we had to tell our parents what we had witnessed, but the memory of the man's wild eyes and haunting scream shocked us at that moment. As we approached our parents and recounted the chilling encounter, they exchanged worried glances. Our parents didn't see or hear the man scream. Instead, they wrote it off to our wild imaginations. They told us not to worry about it and to enjoy the scenery while setting up camp for the night. We quickly set up our tents and started a fire, eager to shake off our unease. As the sun set and the night emerged, my sister Emily and I were still not feeling right. We kept telling our parents we didn't want to sleep here, and once again they dismissed it as our minds running wild. Around midnight, I awoke to the sound of rustling leaves outside our tent. My heart pounded in my chest as I nudged Emily awake. She groggily asked what was going on, and I motioned for her to stay quiet. Peering through the mesh window of our tent, I saw a faint figure moving between the trees. The moonlight cast eerie shadows, making it difficult to discern any details. Whispers of dread crawled up my spine as I watched the figure come closer. It was the same man we saw from earlier, dishevelled and haggard, his tattered clothing barely hanging onto his frail frame. He moved with a strange, disjointed gait, and his eyes, wide and wild, darted around as if he were searching for something or someone. I grabbed Emily's hand, my fingers trembling. We watched in horror as the man drew nearer to our campsite, his presence growing more unsettling with each step. He paused, standing just beyond the glow of our dying campfire. His eyes locked onto ours through the tent window, and a shiver shot down my spine. Suddenly, he let out a guttural, inhuman scream that sent a chill through the entire forest. We heard him mutter to himself, words that were barely intelligible, but sounded like a disturbing mantra. Then, without warning, he turned and disappeared into the darkness, his eerie scream lingering in the air. We told our parents what we experienced, and once again they didn't believe us. They said we had one more night of being here, so let's enjoy it before they and us had to get back to work and school. They later promised pizza on the way back was when we finally gave in. Finally, one last night at the campsite, and my sister Emily and I couldn't sleep. Luckily, nothing eventful happened that night, other than both of us having a bad dream of being attacked by a wild dog. Finally, the next day came, and we packed up our things and hiked back to our car. We kept asking our parents to ask the state troopers about the man we saw. Finally, after hours of asking on our hike back, our parents gave in. When we finally reached civilization, my dad reported our encounter to the local authorities. A state trooper listened intently and then asked us to describe the man. We did our best to recount the chilling details of our encounter. The trooper nodded solemnly, then turned to his computer. After a few moments of typing, he swiveled the screen to face us and asked, "Is this the man you saw?" Our hearts sank as we stared at the screen. It was a black and white photo of the same dishevelled man we had encountered in the woods. "Yes," I stammered, my voice barely audible. The state trooper sighed and leaned back in his chair. "That man you saw, he ran away from an insane asylum over 50 years ago. They never found him." My family exchanged horrified glances. The trooper continued, "We've had reports of him appearing in these woods from time to time. People have seen him, heard his screams, but he always vanishes without a trace. Needless to say, camping was not the same after that weekend on Labor Day." I never thought that a seemingly ordinary Labor Day festival could turn into a nightmarish ordeal. It all began when my friends and I decided to attend the annual Labor Day festival in our small town. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over the fairgrounds as we arrived. The atmosphere was electric, with people laughing, music blaring, and the tantalizing scent of funnel cakes filling the air. It was the perfect way to bid farewell to summer. We roamed the festival grounds, indulging in carnival games and greasy fair food, trying to soak up every last drop of summer fun. As the night progressed, I noticed something odd. The carnival lights started flickering erratically, casting eerie shadows over the crowd. At first, I brushed it off as a technical glitch, but a growing unease nagged at the back of my mind. My friends and I gathered near the Ferris wheel, debating whether to call it a night or stay for the fireworks display. Just as we were about to make a decision, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air. It was a woman's voice, filled with terror and despair. We turned in the direction of the scream and saw a small crowd forming around a food booth. Pushing through the crowd, we were met with a gruesome sight. A man, dressed in a tattered carnival worker's uniform, lay motionless on the ground. His eyes were wide open, devoid of life, and his throat had been brutally slit. Panic swept through the festival like wildfire. People screamed and scattered in all directions. My heart raced as I realized that we were in the midst of a horrifying nightmare. The killer could still be in the crowd. My friends and I decided to stick together as we navigated through the chaos, making our way toward the festival's exit. We kept our eyes peeled for anyone who seemed suspicious, anyone who might be the killer among the fleeing crowd. The festival grounds seemed like a maze, and it was impossible to know if the killer was still among us. Every shadow seemed to hold a threat, and every stranger we passed filled us with dread. We were on high alert, ready to react at the slightest hint of danger. After what felt like an eternity, we finally reached the exit and breathed a sigh of relief. Sirens wailed in the distance as police cars and ambulances rushed to the scene. The killer had vanished into the night, leaving us with a chilling sense of unease. To this day, I can't forget the horrors I witnessed that Labor Day night. The festival that was meant to be a celebration had turned into a nightmare, and the memory of the carnival workers' lifeless eyes still haunts my dreams. Labor Day will never be the same for me. Labor Day had always been a special day for my family. We had a tradition of hosting a beachside cookout to bid farewell to summer. It was a perfect sunny day, and the scent of grilling burgers filled the air as my parents, younger sister Lily, 6 female, and I, 10 male, enjoyed the warmth of the sand beneath our feet. We set up our picnic spot near the water's edge, watching the waves gently roll in. Our laughter mingled with the sounds of families enjoying the holiday, creating an idyllic scene. As the sun began to set, we lit a bonfire, and the sky transformed into a canvas of oranges and pinks. But then, as we were engrossed in the festivities, my parents realized Lily was missing. Panic surged through us, and we began frantically calling her name. We were all running wild trying to find her. Desperation grew as minutes ticked by without any sign of Lily. We were about to call the authorities when we heard a series of gunshots in the distance. The beachgoers around us fell silent, and a chilling hush descended upon the shore. Fear gripped our hearts as we imagined the worst. But then, from the dunes, a man with a rugged appearance emerged, holding Lily tightly in his arms. He was panting, his eyes wide with a mixture of exhaustion and relief. He explained that he had heard Lily's cries and followed the sound of a struggle. As it turned out, a stranger had attempted to snatch Lily and was dragging her away into the woods. The man we now regarded as a savior had fired a warning shot into the air, startling the kidnapper into dropping my sister and fleeing. The gunshots we had heard earlier were not a threat but a lifeline. Tears of gratitude filled my parents' eyes as they embraced Lily. The man stayed with us until the police arrived to take our statements and search for the would-be kidnapper. That Labor Day, we went home after we had our burgers. We planned on staying until 10 p.m., 11 p.m., but my sister was still shaking after that experience, and us too, so much so that we decided to head home early. We still do cookouts every Labor Day weekend, but we are on high alert, and so is my sister from now on.